Hello and welcome everyone. It is time to enter the Kumite. I'm joined today by our technical engineer, the 9-Pro Ninja himself, Sean Myers. Today we'll be bringing Jiri Prochazka into the arena. But first, if you enjoy the content we're creating, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. So what can I say about Jiri? He's 28 years old. He was born in 1992 in the Czech Republic. Very interesting childhood. Played a wide variety of sports. He was an amateur football player. He's also a freestyle BMX rider and a floorball player. This I did not know what the fuck floorball was, but I had to look it up. It's basically like an indoor hockey. I guess it's a Western Asia thing. Jiri lives his life by the Bushido code, the samurai moral values. He says he was inspired by Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings. He considered it as a life-changing book. It taught him that martial arts was just that. It was an art. Taught him the philosophy, the spirituality behind it. That's one of the reasons I love Jiri so much. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite fighters because he's a philosopher. He's a former amateur Muay Thai kickboxer, the inaugural and former Ryzen Light Heavyweight champion, and the former Czech GCF Light Heavyweight champion. Ranked number 6 in Dogs and the Fight Matrix's Light Heavyweight rankings. So usually I do these prospect series on up-and-coming fighters who haven't quite made a name for themselves, or at least not in the UFC. I mostly cover UFC material. But Jiri just blew up so quickly. 2 fights in the UFC, and now he's, Dana gave him the title fight after knocking out Dominic Reyes. With his decorated past, I definitely see why. But I don't know if this has ever happened. 2 fights and then a title fight. I don't think this has ever happened. Alistair Overeem would have gotten that chance, but he didn't do so hot in the UFC. He bulked up. He was on all those steroids, and his cardio was gone. But let's talk about the light heavyweight title fight that's coming up real quick, and then see where Jiri kind of falls into place. Blachowicz is defending his title against Glover Teixeira. That's a very winnable fight for Teixeira. I would not be surprised if he win it. I do believe Blachowicz is going to take it. He's gotten a lot more defensively savvy, and I don't think Teixeira is going to be able to impose his grappling on him. I also don't think Blachowicz is going to tire out like Teixeira when he beat Lionheart, Anthony Smith. It really came down to Anthony gassing himself out early. But Jiri versus Teixeira, I feel like stylistically, Yuri's going to walk through Teixeira. I think that's a really bad matchup for Teixeira. But I think Blachowicz's defense is going to pose a lot, and countering potential is going to pose a lot of problems for Jiri coming forward. He could mix it up on Reyes because really all he had to do for Reyes was get him to back up in a certain way and just break him down. I don't think he's going to be able to break down Blachowicz, and Blachowicz is always dangerous with that Polish power. I don't know. The Blachowicz fight is a tough fight for Jiri. If it wasn't a title fight, I would not suggest it. But you can't tell a fighter to not take a title fight, especially when he's 28-3. Dream fights, I'd love to watch him and Johnny Walker. I don't think it is going to happen because Walker's a bit on the come down. People are starting to figure out which holes he has in his game, but they're both very offensive fighters, and I just want to see whose crazy style would knock out the other crazy style. Another fight would be Alexander Rakic. Rakic is very technical, very good counter striker, and he's also a brawler. He's just a technical brawler. I think that would really test Jiri's defense, because that's what we have to see. And I knew that he was going to get caught by Reyes' left hand. I knew that was going to happen because of the way that Jiri chases. But the question was, can he take Reyes' left hand? And that was also answered. But let's put him under the microscope in the arena real quick. He's very unorthodox. He's a stance switcher. He claims he won't stray from his unorthodox style, but he's going to set rules for himself, fundamental rules, the must-nots. but allow himself to still flow in there because he doesn't want to stray away from himself just to stick to fundamentals. But he needs to not be so counterable. And when he stance switches, what really worries me about that is he squares himself up and he'll stay in that stance a little bit too long before getting his guard up. And we saw that. We saw that with Oezdemir and with Reyes. He almost got knocked out in that Reyes fight. And Reyes just made a fatal mistake. But the way he chases, I mean, it's really good. It puts pressure on people and it makes people make incorrect decisions at times. But his chin is just right in the middle. Too easy of a target, and any good counter striker is going to take advantage of that. He typically throws from the hip. We've been seeing this a lot lately. Martial artists kind of strayed away from throwing from the hip and keeping your hands down for a while just because, it was suggested, have better defense. But throwing from the hip has been working a lot lately. It's just hard to see. It gets right through the guard, right under the guard sometimes. And, you can also make them think that you're going to throw a jab or a straight through the pocket. But you end up coming in with a hook. And that's another thing I was going to get into for Jiri. One interesting thing about his style is he does a lot of dip feints. He's going to dip forward. And it's like a slip and whatever foot he has forward there. But from this dip feint, he can dip feint lead hook, dip feint uppercut, dip feint flying knee, gets his knees up there really quickly, has I think 3 knockouts by flying knee, dip straight, dip overhand, or dip jab. He's developed a really strong jab. He overcommits on his jab a little bit. I think that might be a problem with a strong wrestler, especially like Blachowicz. Blachowicz knows now when to use his grappling in a fight. His defense mainly just consists of hand fighting. He likes to pull down their lead weapon for a counter, post and retreat, but he usually doesn't retreat very far. He's almost always looking for a counter. He's going to retreat, counter. He's just trying to catch you on your downbeat to run in with that right hand. He's really good at interrupting the opponent's momentum or rhythm. Oh, that's a part of his defense, honestly, is his teep kicks or his slipping elbows, like over-the-top elbows. Like, he does these certain offensive, awkward offensive attacks to throw off his opponent's rhythm. He brings his hands up at last second, so it's very reactionary. I don't like this because someone with a good feint can get that reaction out of him, and throw where he's not blocking. And that also poses a big problem for Jiri. I hope he fixes this a little bit, but he's not going to stray away from his hands low style. So he's going to have to find something better than just whipping his hands up in reaction to someone throwing a punch, because you don't know if they're on the highest levels. You don't know if they're actually going to throw that punch or not. They might jab straight left hook and go right around the guard that you just pulled up. There's a lot of setups to get around that reactionary guard. He's very good at timing naked kicks. As soon as someone lifts their leg off the ground to throw a kick, if they don't cover it up with something, and sometimes even if they do, double jab and then a body kick, I've seen him just time these things perfectly to come in with that right hand or left hand, whatever stance he's in, but the power hand. Wicked timing. You can tell he has that reaction speed, and he's very fast, so that plays in his favor as well. He chases a little bit too much. He's gonna get caught for it. That's all there is to it. He's got a good chin. He's got good recovery, but this is gonna be a problem. I see him get knocked out because of his chasing against a really good counter striker. He feints a lot. He's really good at feeling his opponent's downbeat and knowing when to advance. He'll pull out something and then push on them when they react, and then that just throws people off, and then he almost always gets them backing up into the cage. And then from there, he's limited their defensive options, and he has his whole toolbox of things he can throw, and they just don't know what's coming. From orthodox, because he is a stand switcher, he likes to slip to the outside with the lead uppercut. That's one of his key moves. He got a couple of those on Reyes, and I was pretty impressed by that. His power straights to head or body when they're running away. He'll just throw a power straight to the body. From orthodox, he uses his rear teep kick on his opponent's downbeat, throw him off, make him reset or push him against the cage and advance. From southpaw, he mostly throws the lead hook, and from southpaw, he likes to do his dip uppercut, um, especially if their opponent is fighting orthodox. So overall, his weaknesses: he chases too much, squares up his stance, reactionary defense, feints. He'll get his arms all crossed up, and he overreaches a lot. Could be a bad habit against a strong wrestler. Honestly, there's so much more to discuss about this fighter. I'm very excited for his future. I'd like to see him get that belt, but I like Jan too. Glover Teixeira can win that fight. So if Glover Teixeira wins that fight, I really do see Jiri just walking through Teixeira. It's just a bad matchup. I'd like to go into detail about specific fights and break them down. That's what I'm trying to build to right now with this podcast. We still have a ways to go. Just letting us know what you guys are looking for. If you want more general prospect analysis, detailed fight breakdowns, Q&A sessions, or maybe you just want me to bring guests on to discuss the latest gossip and results. Either way, we can pretty much move in any direction. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this prospect analysis episode for Jiri Prochazka. I'd like to thank our technical engineer, the 9-Pro Ninja himself, Sean Myers. I'd like to thank the fighters for going out there and laying it all on the line. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank you, the audience, for entering the Kumite with us here today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, guys, this is not a sport. You don't play fight.